WNBC.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. WNBC.
You guys know how it works.
You know those references.
Right.
As a radio man.
Got to throw a little tribute to Howard in there.
What's going on, fellas?
What is up, dude? Mr. Jon Adler.
Man, thank you for letting me do this and discuss a movie that I probably for the 2,000th time watched at around 11 p.m. earlier this week when I couldn't sleep.
It's a good middle of the night movie.
Get Card is a wonderful, wonderful middle of the night movie because revenge never sleeps.
Yes. This is Jon Adler, by the way, radio man. What do you call yourself? Disc jockey?
I don't know. It's always weird. When people say disc jockey, that sounds like an old timey term. But when they say personality, that sounds even worse. That sounds arrogant.
Yeah.
I just show up. It's you know, the high fidelity thing. I just kept on showing up every day, and that was it.
You're definitely good at what you do, and you're, to me, a Milwaukee mainstay. I've only been living here since Chris. I followed him out here in like what 2001 or some shit.
Yeah,
2000 or something like that, and then I left for a few years and came back or whatever. But I don't know how long you've been here doing it.
I've been here since 2006. I started the show with Cram.
Yeah.
Before that, I was in Madison for 10 years, and like it's a nice development. If you're Wisconsinite, going from Milwaukee to Madison or Madison to Milwaukee is always kind of a nice thing because there's always something you'll miss about both, but you can always go back because it's only an interstate away.
Right. It's not that far.
Yeah. So now I guess I've been here 15, 16. I've been here on the air 15 years now, which
crazy. I
think I'm the longest running single person commercial radio morning show host in this city. Everybody else still has teams, which is amazing to me because that costs money.
All right.
They realize they don't have to
come cheap.
a lot.
Hey man, not everybody can just cover it themselves, I guess. Some people need a crutch, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
If you need any whack pack, give us a call. You need some deviant freaks who call in once in a while.
Good to be back in the studio too. So, which I've been doing it from home. Every time I've been talking to you guys. Actually, I think when I did the voiceover for your movie, that was still in the studio. I recorded that from the studio. Yep. You guys just sent me the script, and I'm like, yeah, I can do that right here. Like I was literally at the studio. I go, I can do that in 45 seconds. I'm like, that's the whole script. I'm like, I can record it right now.
You crushed it.
Thanks again, man.
I mean, one of my favorite things about it is that radio call, that scene, that tracking shot, and your voice just is perfect for it.
Yeah, it adds legitimacy. Like if just some hack did it just wouldn't be.
I did have a cease and desist order against somebody in real life that threatened to kill me several times.
That's something I actually wanted to ask you about. If you had any crazy jacks who called you and shit. But,
yeah, I had to go.
Carter, let's hear about this.
we had to go downtown and file a cease and desist for this woman that would saying she knows where we live and she's gonna just at first it was casually saying she was gonna kill us or not kill us, just
this
get
is
us.
You ain't cramp.
Yeah, and then it turned into a little heavier duty thing. So we're like, yeah, let's file some paperwork. And
who did she have it out for more, you or Cramp?
Yeah, what was her beef?
It sounded like a collective thing. It was definitely
something you said.
Definitely problematic. And then it was weird. The year 2019. Every day at 8:30, some guy would call and not yell at me. And he wasn't. It was hard to figure out at first. First, I thought he was just joking around. And he's like, "You suck. Why do they still give you this show?" And I go, "That's a perfectly good question." And I'm like, "You should do it. Why don't you do it?" I go, "Send me in a tape and a little demo reel." And I thought he was angling for a job. He just hated me. And he was so consistent at 8:30. So it was one of those things where if you wanted to take the call and get your sort of aggressions out on somebody because you knew he was going to go at you first, it was just like what's the old cartoon where the coyote and the chicken are meeting on top of the hill by the tree. And it's just they punch in and they're just going at each other and then they punch out. I knew it's a phone. You could not answer a phone and you're done. But this guy would just every day at the same time, it tells you something. And then he would kind of say the same, it got boring because it was the same insults.
Yeah, it's repetitive.
They weren't good and they weren't cutting. They weren't clever. So I just stopped. And so then, I just kept on saying, I go, definitely stop by the station. I go, let's hang out. And like, I don't think he can leave his house or basement or wherever he was shackled to. But it's one of those things that you hope that it's sort of just like a clever back and forth. It just deteriorated quick. But yeah, you get people that threaten you a lot for no good reason. I'm not shock jockey at all. In fact, I'm the I didn't like and don't like, and so like starting, I did radio, then I did TV and radio, then I went back to radio. I worked at Avid for 6 years. I trained people how to edit video. So I got out of radio, and most people just stay in radio. They'll just go city to city and hammer. And a lot of people had I want to be the next Howard Stern. I want to be the next Mancow. And to me, that was so fucking depressing. Like, what a miserable thing. Like, you only want to be as good as those guys, and you want to do what they do. You're like, there's so much more out there, which is part of the reason where, like, a lot of my interviews are with comedians, because I find them the most interesting to talk to when they're not on. They don't feel like they have to be on. Just like, and it's not like deconstructing funny. I'm not like George Will is to baseball, and I'm certainly never going to try to do stand-up comedy because I respect it too much. But I think a lot of those guys, like in the early 2000s, that wanted to be Howard Stern failed so miserably because they're like, yeah, we're going to get strippers in and we're going to, you're like, oh God, you're like, you don't hear the cliche, do you? You're like, you're going to live out a cliche.
Gotta
and then
innovate.
Once in a while you bump into somebody that's like, yeah, I used to do radio up in Green Bay. And you're like, boy, this story's already fucking boring. You're like, I don't even
regional radio war stories.
Yeah. I mean, the other part is a lot of people, they're like radio people. Like, that's all they've done. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm not one of those. I'm just sort of like, I always dig entertainment. I've always dug pretty deep into movies and TV shows. And I can't watch a show without, and we have an 8-year-old son now who, when we watch cartoons, like, I go, yeah, I know that guy. He's a comedian. I talk to him. And then he'll be like, this happened like when he was 6. He goes, we're watching Trolls. He goes, it's the British guy that does the talk show, right? They go, yeah, it's James Corden. I go, that's pretty good, buddy.
Picking up on those voices.
And I'm like, now you're going to not be able to watch a normal movie or show like I do either. Like, you're never going to be able to do that. And the guys like Ron Funches I talked to, and he was cool. I did an interview with him, and he did the voice from Trolls, a little like audio greeting for my son, which was like, he was so great. So anytime he's on something, he's like, oh, that's Ron Funches. And I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, so that's
Ron Funches seems like a cool ass dude in general.
He's the best, man. So it's like, and I guess like I said, with radio people, they always want to talk about how radio works. And I don't care how radio works. I like really want to talk about the people and interviewing people and who to talk to. And quite frankly, like the interesting ones, instead of like, I want to meet Aaron Rodgers. You go, I want to talk to the third string quarterback for the Packers.
Right.
Because he probably has a lot cooler stories and will tell you every question you have versus an Aaron Rodgers. You probably have to pay to get on the air and go, well, I'm just going to kind of be clever about this and not answer the questions. It's like, that's not a good interview. That's not good entertainment.
Yeah, I actually talked to you about that because I was thinking about reaching out to John Axford just because he's such a movie enthusiast and nerd, former all-star closer of the Brewers, for people who don't know. And you warned me off of athletes, or at least warned me to.
He's good.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I'm not just after athletes, but a select type of athlete, Like, obviously, you don't want any duds on your show.
Here's what I would go after that I still haven't yet. And he started out in single A for the Brewers. His name's Bubba Derby. Mm-hmm. One, I just love his name, Bubba Derby. He plays Triple A. He's a Triple A pitcher for the Nashville Sounds. And I don't know if he's cool or not, but I just liked his name and started following him on Twitter like 5 years ago. Like,
Bubba been a few Bubbas, Bubba Trammell, Bubba. There's been a few baseball Bubbas. Love them.
So I mean, like, if you pick out, and then the next part of this with social media, you can find out what they're interested in. Like Axford, I mean, he puts money towards, Milwaukee Film Festival. He has his own segment on that thing. He called Cramp and I while he was driving to the park one morning, and we didn't think it was him, and it was. Awesome. And then he gave us his number, and he goes, "Yeah, you guys want to just talk about movies or something like that? We can talk." That was years ago.
Yeah, I got to hit him up, man.
Yeah, all those, like, some of those guys are just, guys that are just a little off are great. And guys that have other interests outside of sports are great. Which is, the only group of people I really don't talk to is politicians. Even if I think they would have a lot of commonality with me, I just feel like I don't know. It's just too easy to turn people off and not interesting enough to me to talk to that group. But like athletes are interesting. Like think about the downtime those guys have.
Right.
How many movies would you fucking watch if you knew you had like a 3-hour bus ride? You're just like, I watch both Carlito's Way on the drive to,
Right.
Chicago.
Every once in a while, you get a Charles Barkley who truly does not give a fuck and will just say whatever is on his mind. That's the kind of athlete I want to talk to.
Exactly. No, that's so I like trying to and I don't know what it is, and it's Wisconsin in general, but there's an obsession with radio people to talk to like 1990s Packers, no matter what. Even though it's 2021, they're still like, hey, you used to play for the Packers in 1996 in the Super Bowl. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers? You go, you might as well ask anyone what they think about that, because they'll have the same informed opinion, because the guy that played in the Packers 25 years ago never met maybe Aaron Rodgers. You probably shouldn't have him on your show unless he's really entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's hilarious sorry. I was going to say Aaron Rodgers and Ryan Braun had that fucking restaurant together. That did not age well, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's weird how none of them have, right? I'm like, you think if you're an athlete, you just have like a hot dog stand. Don't go steakhouse, because, again, it's like radio cliches. Don't go the athlete's name, fill in with the steakhouse.
Exactly. That's the thing. Don't brand it with your name and all that shit. Just put some money into it. You're a multimillionaire. Yeah. Just put some money into a classy joint. Let people find out it's your place.
Right. Yeah. That you're associated, but not that it's like the direct branding. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or use your
much
number
classier.
Yeah. If I was like number 78, I'd be like 78 ribs.
There you go.
And you're like, what the hell? Just like, don't overthink it. And
unless you're Gilbert Brown and you start a buffet, then you just run with that shit. Chris, you probably don't know, that's like a 400-pound dude who played for the Packers back in the day. Well, I mean, we do the movie icebreaker thing. We've already broken the ice, but we are here to talk about Stephen K's 2000 masterpiece starring Sylvester Stallone, Get Carter. So,
you didn't want to talk about the original one?
What?
That's the original one.
Shit. We watched the wrong movie again, Joe.
We're totally fucking with you. Of course, it's the original. Mike Hodges, Michael Caine. Come on, classic.
I did watch both.
Let's briefly talk about the 2000 one.
We have to.
I'm curious.
The fact that it's so wrapped up in the .com world, they tried way too hard to go, listen, .coms are sexy. It's young, it's hip, it's fast.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And it aged so poorly.
So we've been in those meetings. It's awful.
Trying to catch the current wave, and
we
then
were pitching
just a few years later, it seems antiquated.
Yeah, we went to somebody, who was it, Vertigo? Somebody with a Warner Brothers deal, and we were pitching them a remake of Lady Hawk. You remember Lady Hawk? Because I'm like, Lady Hawk is not aged well. It had that anachronistic music in it and shit, but the story, the fundamental story of these lovers who are cursed, and one is a wolf by night and she's a bird by day or whatever, and they can only see each other for one passing fleeting second as
it's the most romantic fairy tales type hook ever. Yeah.
And we're like, this generation doesn't know shit about it. So we had a meeting. We went to pitch it.
I'd love to see that come back. A friend of mine from Madison came in the other weekend, and he and I have a running joke about the newest Get Carter, where Alan Cumming, who has the thickest accent in the world, tried very hard to kick out what I guess was like a West Coast accent. And at one point he's being threatened by Stallone. He's like, Mr. Carter. And he's trying to hit the R's so hard to prove that he's not Scottish. Mr. Carter. So anytime when the name Carter comes up, he will just rattle up, Mr. Carter. And
it's like his name had to be fucking Carter, didn't it? But there's more to the story Jay was telling, because it actually has to do with like the execs trying to be current. So when we were pitching Lady Hawk, they were like, well, can we put it like in the future and make it sci-fi? And, like
what's the 15 minutes?
It's like this curse. Version? Like, how are you going to do that in sci-fi? It just doesn't make sense, Like, just redo it with, update it, but it could be the same story. You don't
without
have to
Matthew Broderick
thing.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
That's all.
Were they pitching you cast or or were you like, did you have an idea?
No, we kind of, as soon as we said that, we were like,
it was just a general meet and greet, and we just threw it out there because they actually had that rights to it. So
yeah. But I'm just saying those kind of meetings are so pervasive in Hollywood. Can we set it 15 minutes in the future? How do we? It's like, first off, why the fuck are you remaking Get Carter? Yeah. Honestly,
I know.
Re-release it in theaters. That's what I wish they would do, is just put marketing behind fucking dope classic movies that no one talks about anymore. Instead of
remake it, I would love to see more remakes that follow the exact same script, same setting, everything, but just recast, reshoot it. You know, like Psycho did, but it wasn't like that.
The Gus Van Sant Psycho, that was shot by shot.
Yeah, exactly. Which would be cool though. Like if they reshot it still in England and everything, and like it's like they just have to like reinvent it and make it seem like it's current, but. Again,
well, they did try to bridge it. They tried to bridge the two Get Carters by having one set, the new one set in Seattle, which. Okay, if you're going to give me rainy Newcastle and rainy London, you're like, okay, we're going to make it kind of big city by putting it in Seattle and it'll always rain. But then they kind of went overboard with the weather's always bad here. You're like, oh my God. Whereas the original Get Carter was just like, listen,
that's the weather in this place.
This is it. Yep. This is what we're not waiting for a sunny day because we don't get it. And, more to Jay's point, I agree. Like, fuck the remakes in general. Just, re-release the originals. Why not do that more often? Movies from the 70s are amazing. That is still, a golden era in filmmaking. I mean, Godfather, Apocalypse Now, it's
interesting because
people need to be reintroduced to that, the current generation.
Right. Well, in the theater with plays, it's repeatability out the ass. We've been doing Shakespeare for hundreds of years, but it's different interpretations and everything. But that's because you have to be there live to see it. With a film, it's recorded. Do you need to keep reinterpreting it? Right. But at the same time, it is kind of cool, depending if it's kind of fun role or whatever. But they just so many are money grabs, obvious cash grabs. The rights are going to expire, so let's make another one. They do that shit all the time.
Right. The Hellraiser franchise.
Yeah, Superman Returns.
Turns that came out of that from we got to re-up the rights. Shit, get to crank something out pronto.
Ultimately, it's like the theme of it's good. I mean, like, I just like revenge movies. I love revenge movies.
Yeah, us too. A lot of our scripts are revenge stories.
I actually thought of a new one last night. I'll tell you about when we get off the air, Chris. That I thought of while watching this.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty interesting scene. No one will want to make it because it's a Western.
70s. I mean, Death Wish is a great 70s revenge movie.
Fuck yeah, classic.
And again, I'm fascinated by occupations of people. Like, he was an architect, okay? An architect that was wrong. And his architectural knowledge doesn't really come in there other than assembling a gun when he gets it in the mail. So, like, with Get Carter, he's an enforcer for the mob in London. Right. That's his job. And you can tell he does it well. And you can tell he takes advantage of all the luxuries that are surrounding it. But he's also pretty much always on the job.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you brought up if the themes are the same. What do you think the themes are of this film? Not to quiz you and shit, but it is interesting when you look at a film like Get Carter. What is it trying to say about the world, about the human condition? You got any ideas?
No, I mean, like, other than the obvious, the revenge and the like familial thing. The other thing I kind of love about it is clearly, like, Michael Caine's Carter does not like his hometown. He tells everybody who will listen, I don't like it here. It's a piece of shit place. It's just like he's just ready.
Damn, can you do the rest of the interview with Michael Caine? That was fucking money. I wouldn't even attempt that shit. I would sound like Alan Cummings or some shit if I did that.
We'll have to put a picture of Michael Caine up when he says that.
Yes, dude, you're getting.
Also, I love when even Michael Caine himself says his name is pronounced Mike Cocaine.
Yes.
No shit. I never noticed that. That's great.
They're like, what's your name? Yes, it sounds like Michael Caine. And it's
damn, you got a Stallone? I wonder if his parents were thinking that. You, dude?
I mean, not gonna.
Frank Stallone suffices if that's all you got.
Frank Stallone should have done the second Get Carter. And
no shit, that would be interesting.
Just skyrocketed down. People go, well, I'm not going to go see this.
Dude, I'll make a revenge movie with Frank Stallone. That sounds awesome. I love stunt casting.
So I do like anybody that has the opposite of hometown pride. A guy that's like, listen, I don't like my hometown. So when I do go back to my hometown, I'm going to be miserable.
He's
all of it.
angsty and jaded.
It's great. It's like a character comes with baggage, even if you never explain what the baggage is, you know.
And they don't really, yeah.
They don't have to either.
Yeah.
It's Newcastle versus fucking swinging London, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
In 1971, where you're like, that's everything's still very.
I'm gonna go to London and fuck Britt Eklund,
Britt Eklund.
from.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
Oh my god. And that's
dude, she's an all timer. Fucking Wicker Man.
Yes.
Doesn't age. So I mean, like that part alone, I like the fact he's going on this long train ride back to his hometown. He's popping blackies. He's getting all wired. He's getting wired for this thing, which I also like. Drug use.
Yeah,
and it's so subtle. It doesn't make a big deal out of it. It's just like a long static shot, and he pops a pill during it. It's not like Aronofsky's like, he's taking a pill, people. You know?
Or it's not like the big, it's a mirror in the bathroom and you see his, head snap up and doing
exactly.
The other part, real life, I like is that because in '96 I lived in London. I studied for a semester of college in London.
Oh shit!
And all I did was amphetamines. A lot.
Nice.
Amphetamines and Michael Caine impressions, man.
I mean, a lot. Like they were all over the place. And so to me, those two things are always like, I'm like, yeah, I've done speed on a train. I'm like, totally.
Did you beat the shit out of any dude and throw him off from fucking some stairway or something?
No, I had pneumonia.
Kill a hooker.
Sleep on the train, the tube a couple times. But I did doing you got to put yourself, in college. But when you're doing speed in a city that you're only going to be in for 6 months, you want to see as much as you can.
Right.
And never sleep.
I saw 2 years worth of London in 6 months.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. Do speed when you're on a vacation. You can get more in. Yeah.
And how I got the speed was kind of fun because I'm going to college and I took a photography class. So there's a guy from Wales in my class, and this was old school photography where you go in the dark room and you do your own film. And so we're in the dark room, and at some point he's talking. I go, I'm like, I'm just so, tired. And he's, you think knackered? I'm like, yeah, tired. Yeah. And he goes, I got these. And he had a film canister full of speed. I'm like,
nice.
So that was our thing. It was like in the dark room, he just like, I slipped the 20 and he just let me a film and, just have a film canister. So one of my film canisters in my bag always just.
Those are pretty perfect. Yeah. They're like little pill bottles.
Perfect.
Full of film. So,
and they're black, so you can't see what's in there.
Yeah.
He's getting his fucking Harry Osborn in.
You just think it's film. That's great.
Yes.
And then, like, to some degree, when I got back to Whitewater, Wisconsin, I kind of just stopped. And which
probably wise.
It's wise. And it wasn't easy, but like I did, because I'm just like, well, I think the reason I enjoyed it so much is because I saw so much cool shit. Whereas here, I just feel like, well, I've been
right. You just be in malaise and shit, right?
Is this why you love the guy who hates his hometown so much? Because you identify with it?
Yeah, like
fuck Whitewater.
But I do love, like in Carter, the shots they do are incredible. Like all the stair shots.
Yes,
they shoot him when he's at this club, and it's through this metal grating, and it's just a nice shot of him, and he's sort of moving around, but the shot stays static, and it's just little things. There's not. Huge. There's some huge sprawling shots, which are always good, but like the tight ones.
It's very documentary style too. Mike Hodges came from the documentary world, and the DP, I forget his name too. Look it up if you give a shit, people. But both of them are from the documentary world, and that is part of it. There's a docu feel to it, especially early on. There's a lot. It's almost. I want to ask Paul Greengrass if he was. At all inspired by Mike Hodges films, because just that shaky cam shit, in his earlier movies, Greengrasses, it feels very. The
shots are always shaky. They're always when they're in groups. There's always, it looks like somebody's just the extra party in the room.
It's almost like, now that I think about the film, it feels like the camera settles a lot as it goes. I wonder if that was just a matter of production and it worked out that way. What they shot certain ways, ended up being edited together early, but. I mean, a good director is thinking of how the movie is going to feel throughout, and maybe it is. It's interesting. It's like
more purposeful or something.
As he starts to make more sense of the story and things start to lock into place, the movie itself settles, and then by the end, it's just these static shots on the beach and shit, long shots. Even where the characters are far away from the camera, I love that shit.
Yeah.
They did a few of those in this movie where it's like I could be 300 feet away from my leads and just let them act and shit.
Yeah. When they find the dead body in the river, they're easily 200 yards from that house, and there's just one shot showing these cops
way out, and with the string of clothes.
It is. You're right. They're just like dots. It doesn't even have to be
but it's great. And I feel like nowadays they go get all their coverage and the close-ups and reverse shots of each of their reactions to, it's like
the other weirdest part I love in like the first 10 minutes is when he does get to the first bar and there's a phone call for him and they go, "Is there a Mr. Carter in the room?" And when the bartender says that, there's a guy who's holding a pint and he's got 6 fingers on one hand.
I didn't notice that.
It's small, it's weird, it's meaningless.
Yeah, that's cool.
They put him there. They put a guy with 2 fingers in one hand in the foreground of a shot that didn't need to happen. But he wasn't.
That's the 70s,
that touch of
70s,
weirdness.
60s, a little tweak of the dial.
But it's also like a poke in the eye to a hometown, going, "Listen."
Yeah, the incestual kind of right.
Yeah. They're like, "Listen, these people are cretins and
mutants." Right.
Like literally, it's got a real 6th finger. It's 1971. We're not dealing with good prosthetics. That's just a dude they found at an extra digit. And
check this guy out. We got to put him in there.
That's something that's great about it too, is the faces, man. I mean, Michael Caine's not some fucking pinup dude, and nowadays everyone in it would be hot and it would suck.
Yeah, it would be one of the Chris's or and he's like, but when you think like everybody in there is either very good looking, you're Britt Eklund's, or just kind of plain.
Well, and the very good-looking ones are trophies of these ugly men and shit. It's
and they're represented that way too. You're like, listen, she's the boss's girl, and Carter shouldn't have been messing with her. But it's like, what you gonna do? It's the kind of the development of it is just funny that it's a series of like, oh, I know that, and it's just like, and then he's like, gonna talk to him. He wanders about the city pretty freely, which would be the hard part about remaking it. If you're going to jump another 20 years and make a Get Carter 2022, like people would find him right away. They're like, well, he's got a phone on him. Yeah. Well, we're going to find him, and then we're just going to beat the shit out of him or kill
technology
him.
As a screenwriter, technology has fucked us, dude.
Cell phones, cameras, DNA, all that
they
shit.
Ruin horror concepts, everything. Like, I want to set everything in a period, but then it's like budget issues and it's harder to get made and shit. It's like, ugh.
And that's technology, and that's the other slam on the remake of Get Carter is that they didn't even worry about the technology. They were just showing you that the lifestyle of a .com millionaire is crazy and elaborate, and they have parties till 3 a.m. and it's all
you're right. They're playing fucking
and it's
Moby. Perfect.
I don't know. I picked that, but that whole soundtrack was.
We actually want to get into music with you. I don't know when our buzzer's going to go. I don't think we've been going that long. I'm kind of blazed, so who knows? But
probably like half an hour, a little more.
I wanted to talk to you about not only music in movies, but music in general, because I'm so fucking out of touch. I want to know what's good and current to listen to from a guy who might actually know that. Do you got any suggestions for a couple of dudes who find themselves falling into that thing where you only listen to shit from your generation?
It's a struggle to like keep up, and the one theme that's going on right now is that Travis Barker from Blink-182 is basically taking any young musician he can find, putting his drum beat behind him and making hits. Like there's this one guy I would recommend and check him out because his name's Kenny Hoopla, and he actually lives in Oshkosh. He's from Ohio. He lives in Oshkosh for years. Mid-20s probably. Like Kurt Cobain's a big influence on him, and it's a lot of that. I don't know.
Kenny Hoopla, yeah, I'm gonna check that out for sure.
He's just like has his own problems and gets them out through music. Doesn't separate the two seemingly. Talks about it, sings about it. You can tell it's genuine. It's like it's not my art separate from my life, which I always have trouble. Like get an example. I was just talking to a friend about it with Ian MacKaye, that he would never do. Ian MacKaye from Minor Threat and Fugazi would never do interviews with any magazine that had cigarettes or alcohol advertisements in it. That was his policy, and he stuck to it. Very few people stick to that. At some point, they go, listen, I got to give in. And that dude stuck to his guns, which is not easy to do.
Right.
And yeah, for like the 90s was like, I was in the 90s, I was in my 20s. So that is that block, no matter what it is, from your Metallica to, again, going back to London, like drum and bass music was huge in London at the time. And drum and bass music to me it can work really well, especially in films, but just as a really good, I always need bed music for the show. I'm always looking for bed music, just, instrumental stuff that doesn't grab you so tight that you're not paying attention to what I'm saying, but something that's interesting enough to make people go, the hell is that? Yeah,
it's not music. It's something you're actually like, what is that? Yeah.
And most, like, if you listen to talk, it's funny when talk radio, like conservative talk radio will do like Green Day is bumping music, and they go, here's the problem with liberals. You go, whoa, you just use Green Day
right
music.
It's like Reagan using Born in the USA and shit. Yeah.
You just aid a band whose beliefs are completely opposite of what you're about to go into. You're like, that's fine. It's funny to me, but like, you're not paying attention. And that's good.
Right.
It's like Chris said with Reagan, or you get those ball players who are all, they use Springsteen's Born in the USA as their walk-up music when they go to bat and shit, yet they would not agree at all with his anti-war stance.
Actually, listen to the lyrics.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's why, musically, let's see. God, I'm here. I literally have a stack of vinyl in front of me. New Foo Fighters,
nice.
Band Teenage Fan Club, who are still around somehow from the 90s. The one you might appreciate, I found this at Spy Who Loved Me.
Nice.
With every version of, I think 3 different versions of Nobody Does It Better.
Now owned by Amazon.
And then mostly it's just like George Carlin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Dude, vinyl's so cool, but I'm so scared to even go there. I'm a collector by nature, dude. Fucking movies, baseball cards, venereal diseases, That was a joke, folks. Clean as a whistle.
No, there's very little. I'll literally listen to anything. The cool part about the radio station is that there are literally a stack of CDs that labels and bands will still send us, and I'll arbitrarily grab one. And we just got a new car the other week, which doesn't have a CD player, and that's just like taking nuts out. So I'm trying to fabricate a way to get a CD player hooked up in the car so I can still listen to full CD.
So you got an aux cable, get some old Magnavox, carry around.
That's what I got to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
So, no, I will, like, where I the only one thing I'm very adamant about is I don't have a Spotify account, and I never will. I just don't like how they pay or don't pay artists, even though they've changed their tune a little bit, but they're still, it's so bad.
It's like 0.0007 cents per stream or something.
Would you like me to try and make sure this podcast doesn't go on Spotify for you?
No, I'm fine. It's
I might be able to figure that out.
Well,
no, it's a personal.
We're at the stage we're just trying to grow audience, so it's not about the money quite yet.
I'm not that at the end of, but like and it's nothing I would never bring up unless it comes up. Like I would never just go, post, stay on Spotify, just listen to local radio. Like you got to get music wherever you can. And I admit it, it's like I just don't like when artists really, really suffer. And I don't mean like guys, bands have been around for years. I mean, some of your bands have been around like for 5 and 10 years, and they've actually grinded it out, put in the miles, worked hard, put their own name behind it, had their friends do the artwork for their albums. Those kind of people.
How it should be, man.
And going out and buying the album, that was beautiful. Now it's like people just like, throw the song, whatever the hit is. Yeah. It's not like, you guys probably watch the end credits to movies all the time. And most people walk out when the credits roll, and you probably watch the credits because some of the people in the credits. Yeah. And that's, to me, is like the liner notes for albums are fascinating. Who a band thanks or doesn't thank is really funny to me. That tells me everything I want to know about this band. Yeah. And it's a work of art in and of itself. Yeah. Just the packaging.
Better. You think of like in Almost Famous where she lights that candle and makes them listen to the fucking record, Yeah. Like that's how it should be, like a ritual. It used to be really ritualistic. You look at the artwork from the record and all, but everything's
all
so
of that to me, and that's
dismantled now. It's all about singles and shit. Because, I mean, first off, let alone just the album itself and the artwork and everything. Remember concept albums like fucking like Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche and shit, where it's like a fucking concept album. Yeah, The Wall, obviously, the big example. But does anyone do that anymore? I mean, you see some in hip hop has even done a couple, I guess. But
not often, because I think they know, like you said,
the single.
You don't get a single out of that, and you can't get. And
it could be a good way, though, maybe to drive people from the single to an album, you know?
Yeah, and The Wall had plenty of songs that stand on their own for sure, of course, you know, so you can do both for sure. Yeah.
What do you guys think about
consumed that way?
What about prog rock? Are you guys fans?
Dude, what do you call prog? See, I'm so bad with the labels and shit. What is exactly like? Who are bands that are prog rock?
I don't know ones now, but like I read a book last summer that was all about the 70s prog rock thing, and
would that be like Can and stuff like that? Like more like
I mean, oh God, what did I end up buying? Yeah, it was like it's kind of your longer form things, but it's funny, like
more like jam bands and stuff.
The members of Rush even admitted, because I'm like a big punk fan. I'm like old punk, new punk. I always will. It's a genre that is, like, to me, reliable. It's you know, even if it's bad, it's still good to me.
Yeah.
How was the punk scene as a kid in Whitewater? What was the Whitewater punk scene?
It was fun, but like the guys from Rush said, we weren't that great of musicians. It's just punk was so raw and bare bones that we looked really, really elaborate. We looked like really highbrow. They go, because like the benchmark and people buying records were like, oh, Sex Pistols, the Germs. Yeah. You go, ooh, Rush. These guys have like a really extensive drum kit. They're fancy. And they go, we weren't really. And which is hard to admit when you're Rush. Like, you've been around for 50 years. And you're like, we weren't that good.
Let me ask you, is Neil Peart the shit? Everyone tells me Neil Peart's like the best drummer ever. I'm like, is he?
I don't know. I question that. He had the most.
It feels like one of those things people just repeat. It's become a meme or something. I don't know. Not to down the guy, but there's so many amazing drummers.
Like, you know how like
maybe technically, you know, precision wise and technically and stuff.
J.K. Simmons would have yelled at him.
There's more to it than that. Yeah, exactly.
J.K. Simmons that was a 7-minute movie. He had like an elaborate. I always like in Freaks and Geeks how they like imitated the Neil Peart drum kit. Right. It was like an 80-piece drum kit or something that they had in it. He had a lot of drums, but just because you have a lot of something doesn't mean you're always bad. Is
John Popper the best harmonica player because he wears a bandolier with 12 of them? I don't know.
Robert Sumlin probably, or there's a guy in Madison, Westside Andy, who's been playing harmonica for like 50 years. He's incredible.
Oh man, I love that kind of shit.
Genuinely cool. Like blues and punk are the things that I've listened to consistently for my entire life. Those two to me are like intertwined, which for movies too works really well. I think but it's funny, like with punk, there's some really bad punk movies that have really good soundtracks. You know, way too many of them to name here. But and going back to Get Carter, Roy Budd did the score music for that, and that is a soundtrack that is the Get Carter soundtrack is the most underrated, unappreciated thing. When you just hear it fits so perfectly.
Yeah, dude, it's great.
It's very piercing, and it hits really hard at a time when it should. And like all of his, usually with the violent acts that happen in Get Carter. I also like the fact that he shoots a guy, stabs a guy,
throws a guy off the building.
It's syringe.
It's the opposite of John Wick, where it's like you're just numbed by the shooting after a while. That when Get Carter, you go,
it's more creative with the kills.
It's more like Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, exactly.
Like each kill is like signature kills and shit, man. That is great, man. And
Michael Caine mixed it up.
Like I said, revenge films are just so satisfying. Just to see a dude with, I mean, a lot of movies suffer just from somebody not even having, I mean, I wouldn't say suffer, where you say goals. I'm not a guy who needs goals. Movies like shit like Greenberg and, you know, My Dinner with Andre are fucking epic to me. I love it. That's some of my favorite shit. But to see somebody on a pursuit that they don't care if they live or die almost. They're just going to see it through to the end, you know?
Well, one of Jay and my scripts is it's set in ancient Greece, and it's about a guy. He's a winemaker, so it's similar to what you were talking about with Death Wish, an architect who ends up on the warpath because of what happens in his life. It's this vintner, winemaker character whose daughter is killed by a soldier, but before he can get his revenge, the soldier's killed in battle. So the guy kills himself to go to Hades and get revenge in hell. So
the whole script is this dude, like a Western in ancient Greece, going through hell to get revenge on this motherfucker who he thinks the guy, because he raped and killed his daughter, is going to be in Tartarus, like the fiery pits of hell, you know? So he's like, I'm going to offend the gods and kill myself, and I'll go to the fiery pits of hell, and I'll get this dude and get my revenge in the afterlife since I was denied in life. But he finds out, because the guy, even though he's a rapist piece of shit, was such a great warrior on the battlefield, that the gods put him in Elysium. So now our guy has to fight his way all the way from the depths of hell to the paradise of Elysium to get his revenge. It's fucking crazy, dude.
Like this untold myth, you know.
It's a sick script, but we love revenge shit.
Yeah.
I know, and I kind of love that idea. There's a friend of mine and I had a joke. I went to Portland, Maine for 2 weeks one time for work, and we were kind of joking about the idea of a movie idea where somebody accidentally confuses Portland, Oregon with Portland, Maine. Yeah. And then the entire story is just keeping on crisscrossing goddamn country trying to get revenge on somebody because you got your Portlands mixed up.
I love it.
Which is funny like that, because
you got your title, Portland, boom.
Yeah, Portland. But I like that. Like that idea is much deeper, where you're like, first of all, you're willing to die. Two, you have to have a very specific belief after you die, because if you don't believe in the afterlife, you're like, I got to stay alive to keep this thing going. But if you go, nope.
Yeah, this is ancient Greece with the, he had all that infrastructure.
There weren't a lot of fringe people in ancient Greece. You pretty much bought into what you were being sold.
And at that point, the dude's like, he's alone. His daughter was raped and murdered. He's this one-armed winemaker.
He had nothing left anyway. Yeah, so he was kind of okay with the possibility.
Even if I kill myself and there's nothing, fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
But revenge is the best. We had a TV show called The Revenger that we had option to the Weinsteins. That's the way we know McTeague. He was going to direct the pilot. But revenge is our shit. Again, I thought of another fucking firecracker. I'll tell you about, Chris. It's pretty good.
What do you think about the John Wick movies? Are you like, we're 3 into it now?
I've only seen the first one.
Yeah.
I kind of a little bit
dug it. I saw it on a plane.
Yeah.
What's that?
I know the guy who wrote it a little bit. He's actually from Wisconsin, Derek Kolstad.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was not like that at first.
No,
it was pretty low key. It was about this guy who used to be a hitman, and he modeled the character John Wick after his grandfather. That's his grandfather's name was John Wick. And from what I remember of reading drafts of it before he sold it, because I was like in a writer's group with him and shit, it was very much just like Breaking Bad feeling almost. Okay. Just kind of this guy going through to get revenge for somebody who killed his dog, but he's ex-hitman. There's movies like Revanche and shit, that are just lower key revenge movies. I remember it being more like that, but then it went out, and some of the people who responded to it were those stuntmen guys turned directors, whoever made it, Chad Stahelski or whatever, and the other guy. They just thought, what if we took this property? We've been wanting to do some shit of this dude who just goes around killing 100 people. What if we use this? His dog got killed. That's the revenge thing. So it's kind of when you hear about like Die Hard movies, like that Simon Says movie became Die Hard 3 or something. They didn't plug it into a franchise, but they made it franchisable by turning it into this crazy action fucking blood splatter body count movie. I don't think it was a body count movie. I think it maybe killed like 5. It was more like Get Carter level
understated
revenge. Yeah, exactly.
Get Carter only has, I think, about a half a dozen for a body count.
Yeah,
I mean,
it makes each one more meaningful, though. Yeah,
it's great. They take a while though. It's quite a while of the movie, but once he starts killing motherfuckers, it's on.
Yeah,
I could be off of the number, but like, I mean, with that final scene, like those shots, one, are so long. And two, he has 4 to 5 different options. Like, there's just opportunities to shoot the guy dead.
Yeah.
Also, the hunting rifle. Let's appreciate the fact that, yes, Get Carter, Carter does have a handgun, which he uses on that boat, which is like apparently no police heard gunshots.
I know.
Right.
Dude, they were.
Like, you know how loud
It's almost like my
rampant.
neighborhood. It's like all these gunshots and no one does shit about it. North side.
But it's like if you go down by the river, by the Milwaukee River, and you shot, I don't care if it's a 22 handgun underneath a bridge, it's deafeningly loud. And that was just like a straight up nothing got away.
And it wasn't some empty Dr. Octopus lair wharf or some shit. It was like people had just gotten off this boat, this ferry or whatever. They're just fucking gunning at each other.
The locations in this were awesome, man. How industrial it was, and the dockyards and all that stuff.
That shit at the end, those crazy train tracks and shit.
Yes.
That was nuts.
Even the ocean. Like, the ocean is just filthy. It looks like Lake Michigan in March.
Like what was the purpose of that fucking machine? Like, it was just to dump shit in the ocean, apparently. That's what I wanted to do.
That's Newcastle for you, man. That's
totally.
That's why I hated his town.
You're like, you're going in one of those buckets. You're going in the ocean. You're like,
Nice, man. That's
if you stick around for overtime after the buzzer, which, by the way, we do have an overtime segment. Once the buzzer goes off, feel free to take off or stick around. We've had people stay 3 minutes to 3 hours. No,
I'll hang.
But if you hang, do the whole thing as Michael Caine for me. Do you know Caliendo at all? That's a Milwaukee guy.
I shouldn't say this. I'll say it. I've never had him on the show because I don't like people to do imitations.
Well,
interesting.
It grows really old really fast for me. I'd rather.
It's relatively low-hanging fruit as far as comedy goes, for sure.
Hey, no offense, and they can make money, but to me, it's always a Vegas act.
Yeah.
Well, I think with him is the diversity of the impressions. Like, he does a lot of them really well. Yeah, and it's what you do with it, like the De Niro Frankenstein thing. That was him, right?
Yeah, his De Niro Frankenstein is pretty good.
Like to come the mashups. But it's not like that elevated.
I like Bill Hader's imitations. His imitations are
good.
Yeah,
really
he is great. Did you ever see the deep fake? I think he did Tom Cruise or something, and they actually put Tom Cruise's face on him.
Oh, really?
As he did it. Yeah. It's so convincing.
Look up that. What is it? Control face delete or some shit, something like that.
Right.
There's some guy who does these deep fakes.
Yeah,
and he does. Bill Hader is one he's done quite a few of, because he goes on Conan or whatever and he does impressions. But as he's doing it, his face will morph into Arnold's, and he's doing it, and the impression's killer. It's like Arnold's there.
But that's the thing I like. It's like
he did like Jim Carrey as Nicholson in The Shining or something, shit like that.
If impressions are one of the things you do, I like that. But if it's only thing you do, I guess to me, it's like you're going to go through your Charles Barkley's, your Pacinos, and then I'm just like, I just think ahead as a guest. Like if interviewing a guest, I'm like, how I don't want to like be disingenuous to them. I don't want to waste their time or my time, and I don't ever want to like insult somebody after I invite them onto a show.
Right. One of the reasons I asked is because I got his mail once delivered to my house because it was a WGA thing. And I don't know, there's probably only a couple of us in the Writers Guild, who are in Milwaukee, I imagine. But I still wonder how, just because we're both in the WGA, I got his shit. Like, did the mail person sort his shit and mine? I don't think we would. It was like bizarre. To a PO box that his brother was supposed to maintain, but it's Frank Caliendo, care of some other Caliendo, at a PO box, but it came to my house. I was like,
should have opened it. Maybe it was a residual check.
I think it was just that shit you get where you got to turn in your dues.
Yeah.
so I shredded both,
which we ignore anyways.
Exactly. I'm gonna end up FICOR like fucking John Ridley. We got to get him in here one day. Speaking of Milwaukee, are you missing like the concerts and all that shit? Because you get invited to a lot of concerts, I imagine, right?
I'm dying, and they're starting up again. It's like slowly, but like seemingly September is the big date. I mean, like normally, like you wouldn't consider in radio taking off June or July because it's just wall to wall, Summerfest, and then end of July is usually Riot Fest down in Chicago. End of July is Lollapalooza. They're Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction is the one who still puts together Lollapalooza, and like locked down the same dates that he had planned every year for Lollapalooza. And he's like, I got all the permissions from the city. I got all the streets blocked off. I got people interested. We're going to go with it, which like tip of the cap to him, man. I don't like the people that were going, in last March going, we don't care. We'll play wherever. You know, people were threatening to, like, we'll go to Texas to play a live show. You're like, shut the fuck up. You're like, you know, I'm not going. You know, even if I like your band, don't just be threatening about.
Like, you know how much fucking cocaine we have to pay for? We will play
exactly.
anywhere.
Gas money and coke, and it's just like the idea of bands like threatening that they're going to play wherever anybody will let us play. You're like, no venue wants that, because no venue wants to get potentially sued. And I kind of like read, there's like a couple months ago where I just read into the possibility of the liability of venues and getting sued. And you'll find a group of lawyers that say it's never going to happen, and other ones that'll go.
That's interesting.
If you can trace them, and if this person didn't go anywhere except for this one concert they wanted to see, you could potentially be sued. And if you're owning a venue, you don't want to roll those kind of stuff.
Nature.
Yeah, even if you feel they have no standing, just being sued, period, is a hassle and costs money
right.
and shit.
Even if you win, it still sucks. Right.
Yeah, and exactly. You're like, oh, great, one of your potential ticket buyers died, and you're like, but you won. That's good. Like, yeah, nobody wants to be on the.
That's one of my missions, is to get through life without being sued by someone other than just a bill collector, because fuck them. But
because they're not real.
I had cancer. Fuck you.
That's
right. Run my credit history. This episode has been brought to you by creditreport.com and Experian. Fuck, man.
Can't get to the 3 digits.
When you watch a movie, do you, as a music guy, pay close attention? Like, do you have movies with favorite soundtracks that aren't Scorsese movies? Because he's taken every fucking good song from TV sheets to fucking, you know, he's done them all.
I would say Trainspotting 1 and 2 have probably the best soundtracks I've ever heard. In fact, I found a band off the Trainspotting 2 soundtrack called Fat White Family out of the UK.
That's a great
name. That's a great name.
It's like our family reunion band.
We can relate.
Yeah, look up Fat White Family. They are.
I have a photo album from an old family reunion called that. I might accidentally open. But...
I haven't seen Trainspotting 2. Yeah.
Me neither, dude. Shit.
Oh, really? Oh, go see that. Go check that out this weekend.
Well, what did you tell me? Oh, let me ask you this. Because you gave me 4 movies, I think, to kind of choose from for this. So there was Get Carter.
Yeah.
Trainspotting was one, which has made me think of this.
Spies Like Us.
Spies Like Us. And what was the 4th one? Do you remember? Shit.
No.
I have to look at it. But I wanted to ask you about Spies Like Us, because we remember that. We were 80s kids and broke on welfare, but we get promotional HBO once in a while. And there was like that month of heavy rotation of Spies Like Us. Was always on TV as a kid, I remember, for like a summer or something. But
related to Kiss. All right, so I don't like the band Kiss. I'm upfront about it.
Preach.
Cheers.
People love Kiss because they
kind of like their Unplugged, but that's it.
And,
go ahead.
Or they like fireworks and they like makeup.
Yeah,
and they had a good childhood, and that was the soundtrack. But when you break it down, you go, "Why do you like Kiss? What's good about it?" Oh, the Peter Criss part, like there's, they'll pick a song or something and they go, well, then how come all of them except for 2 were completely interchangeable with other people if they were that great?
Right.
So it's sort of, Spies Like Us to me is a little bit like Kiss, where I think during that point of time in my life, I just remembered anything that Chevy Chase did, I'm locked in. It was post Fletch by about a year or 2. The part of it I love the most is B.B. King in Spies Like Us.
Yeah.
That role could have gone to anyone, but Dan Aykroyd, being a blues connoisseur, wanted BB. When you think about what BB King in that movie, it could have been a woman, it could have been a man, it could have been a 20-year-old, it could have been an 80-year-old. It really has no significance, but it was BB King, and you couldn't stop thinking, that's fucking BB King. Also, the Russia thing, the fact that it was the only movie that was like, hey, Russians are cool, we can get along with them, which is a novel idea and very funny at the time.
Yeah,
the other one was Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I just looked it up.
Monty Python, that's right. We talked about Spam a lot.
Classic.
Yeah, that's just a volume one. That's just one that I've seen just in so many different states of mind, so many different places, and it's a real like universal movie. I don't think, even if somebody might. I like absurdist humor. I love absurdist humor. It's some of my favorite things because there's no real rules to it. It's not like there's just you can't go wrong. If absurdist humor doesn't have any rules, no real comedy should have any rules. But that's, to me, and again, that's a growing up thing. The first time I saw that movie was on PBS, like with my dad, and he was watching it.
Nice.
I just remember him. I was asking questions at one point. He just told me to stop asking questions and watch it. And he goes, "You don't need to understand history. Just watch it." And he was a teacher. And like when a teacher, who's your parent, tells you you don't need to know history,
so you got D's in history the rest of your life, and you use that against them and shit.
Lifelong thesis. Yeah.
You said history doesn't matter, Dad.
Yeah. Like Monty Python, dude. That's just a flawless movie. And again, I would love to see any documentary on the making of that and all the things behind it and who they hung out with. Like Monty Python was like, Beatles are like, we're bigger than Jesus Christ. Monty Python is kind of bigger than the Beatles because they were hanging out with them and then stuff. And
that's true.
Wanted to hang out with them.
Isn't it better to hang out with the Beatles than to be the Beatles?
No shit. Yeah. They were probably having more fun with all the comedy.
You probably got chicks off of their overflow. Right. So that was one thing handled. Drugs, money, booze around, shit.
And you're just a comedy troupe rather than a band. So
you're making the band laugh.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Yeah, it's funny how musicians want to be comedians and actors want to be musicians.
Athletes and rappers are the same way. All the rappers want to be a basketball player. All the basketball players want to be rappers and shit.
Let's not forget that Shaquille O'Neal is doing a DJ set at Summerfest this year.
Do you remember his album, Shaq Diesel or whatever he had?
Yes, Shaq Diesel.
Man, he had a Sega video game. He had a movie where he was a genie and shit. Kazam. Shaq did it all for a minute.
He still do it when you think about it. Like he's still making pretty good. I mean, he's on everything. He's on those general commercials. He doesn't care, which is also fun. I like people that just like,
Shaq would be a good guest.
He would be.
Shaq don't give a fuck. Him and Barkley are kind of cut from that same cloth. Barkley's a little more crazy, but
going back to impersonations, I do love Jay Farrow's imitation of Shaquille O'Neal. It might be my favorite thing.
Jay Farrow's a bad motherfucker, dude.
Yeah.
This Denzel.
Yeah. See, that's a guy I want to talk to for hours. Because like he's also on SNL, which again, I have a soft spot for SNL. People are like, "Oh, I stopped." Anybody who's like, "I stopped watching it years ago," you're like, "I feel sorry for you because you kind of missed out on some pretty amazing shit." Like, even
I catch it all in clips on YouTube.
Culturally,
now.
It's pretty culturally important, you know.
Well, and really, they were ahead of their time in the fact that what did they do? They broke everything down into skits and sketches, which are YouTube fodder. Like that's where we are right now.
We watch them at lunch sometimes at work, you know, like we just throw up
doesn't last more than 7 minutes, and you're like, they have it down,
digestible.
1976.
Well, the problem is when they turn them into movies. Yeah, that's when they fail.
Most of them should say sketches and shit. Yeah,
right.
You should do a whole.
SNL movies.
And that means I have to watch them though.
If we have a panel, we'll bring you in at Hollywood Squares that shit because that could be a good one.
Let's do that.
SNL movies.
I'll put Blues Brothers probably near the top of that list.
Yeah, that's one of the.
That is a question. What is the best SNL movie? Let's think about that for a second.
It might
Blues
be
Brothers. Is that? But was that even? Was that a skit first, or was it just starring SNL members?
It was if you consider Lorne Michaels producing it, then I think you got it.
I was wondering.
Wayne's World.
The same thing. Recently.
Wayne's World straight off the show.
Yeah, Wayne's World.
That's Wayne's World near the top.
That's a good point.
What's the worst? Coneheads.
Pat.
That wasn't as bad as some others. The Pat one, I was gonna say.
Dude, we got to watch Pat and Coneheads and do a death match against.
Coneheads, however, good soundtrack. Check out.
That Chili Peppers song was.
There was some great shit on there.
That's one of the best songs they ever made, dude.
Yeah. Aerosmith was
fucking. What song is that? Do you remember?
No,
I'm song.
Scar Tissue, maybe.
No, I think that was that Californication album.
No, it's something deeper. It was like in the early '90s. I think it was off.
Dude, I gotta look that
album, maybe.
Yeah.
But
people who don't know got to know about this shit.
But that whole Conehead soundtrack was.
It was. I listened to it a lot. Yeah,
it was good '90s stuff. Like it was your.
Yeah.
It's not even like a greatest.
Soda Squeeze.
Yes.
Sorry.
Squeeze.
Farley's, actually, Tommy Boy, I would put near the top of that list too. But that technically wasn't an SNL skit.
Yeah.
That was Lorne Michaels touched it. But
who's your all-time favorite cast member of SNL?
I'd put Farley up there.
But like, if you could assemble your own cast from the All Stars in the Hall of Fame, like 5 of them to be on a cast.
That would be
Eddie
tough,
Murphy.
I would never have Belushi and Farley on the same stage because
they fill the role.
Yeah.
That's why it's fun to nerd out on this shit, though.
Phil Hartman was just him and Parnell to me are great straight men that did it so well for so long and kind of didn't appreciate them until they left.
Yeah, and the way Hartman went out is fucked.
Yeah.
Do you count Weekly Update as cast? Like Norm Macdonald?
Norm Macdonald.
He's the
best. My favorite in-studio guest we've ever had. That guy.
You've had Norm on? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What's his favorite movie? I got to know.
Oh, my God. Dirty Work.
Right.
He was willing to hang out longer than the segment went, which was so cool because
Dude, I love Norm.
Norm's the best, dude. Most comedians' favorite comedian. Like Norm,
he might be my favorite comedian in the end. If I had to pick
his
one,
Letterman Bob Uecker story.
You're alone, right?
Yeah. Is it cool if I start filming now?
No, when we get inside.
Why are you here?
I just thought it was really interesting, that someone hasn't left their basement in 6 months, not even to use the bathroom. Is that true?
Why would I want to go out there? I got everything I need right here. That's what's wrong with most people. They're weak-willed pussies and parasites who buy into that whole "it takes a village" bullshit. You know how many aliases I've used calling into radio shows?
I've had it up to my goddamn gills with the systematic feminization of this country.
I'm feeling accordingly one check. Get your own damn show if you think you got that much to say.
You live in your mom's basement.
Get down! Fuck you! What's so special about my loser son?
You really do hate your own mother.
She's a woman. Why wouldn't I?
There's some disconnect there, and if I can find it, what is hate? Where does it come from? Where does it go?
You want to know what gender you are? Reach down the front of your fucking pants and shoot fucking kite. Black Lives Matter. Do you call horses slaves? Liberal fucktard. Enough with the parades and the rainbow flags.
Dude, this guy's... it's like pure hate, man.
I want to see something really fucking cool.
This guy is a fucking animal. He's got himself on a leash. He's itching to get off that fucking leash. And he's gonna fucking kill some people.
What a fucking show.
Stop!
What do we hear?
Look at me! Look at me!
We're gonna help you show them the light. We're gonna change the world.
This is Cactus Jack coming to you live from a studio audience.
To the man who calls himself Cactus Jack, we have watched as you have rocketed to infamy.
And you wonder why these cornered animals lash out. Get the fucking side.
And now, we have watched as you have called for literal blood.
I know you're out there listening. It's buzzing in your ears, burrowing into your brain.
Do it.
Jack, you're gonna love this. I pulled that trigger on that motherfucker's head.
Your VPN will not shield you. The darknet will not hide you. You and your kind are finished.
You think I'm scared of you?
Come and fucking get me!
Might I be your neighbor? Neighbor?